Welcome to the Career Ready podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at the College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Malik, and in today's bonus episode, I'm going to be interviewing Rebecca Harrington to better understand her story. Hi, Rebecca.
Thank you for doing this interview today. This is going to be fun, I hope, for our listeners.
Oh, for sure. I'm so excited to interview you and just kind of learn more about your career path. So let's get started with the first question.
All right.
So to get us started, I want to kind of put you on the spot here and ask for your elevator pitch.
Okay.
Yeah. So because the elevator pitch should always change with the setting, I wanted to ask for two. So we'll start with the first one. So can you share a personal elevator pitch about you and your non-job related interests?
Okay, let's see what I can do here. Hi, my name is Rebecca Harrington, and I am a podcaster. That means I'm not just a podcaster for the Career Ready podcast, but I'm also the co-host of the Ghostly podcast, where we talk about and debate ghost stories. I'm also involved in local theater and the proud new owner of 2 new kittens.
Oh my gosh. That was a great elevator pitch, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us more about what theater you're involved in and your kitties. What are their names?
So as far as theater goes, I am involved in a group called Memoriam Development, which is a production company that is interested in bringing more art to the western suburbs of Chicago. So we do local theater, we do improv, and we actually also have podcasts on in our group as well. So I help out. I have acted in a few things, but I'm a little bit more on the producing side of things. You know, I help read things that we might produce, and I help with fundraisers and all that good administrative stuff. But I enjoy it. Yeah, and the kitties' names are Louie and Lucy.
Oh, so adorable. Yes, and I have listened to your Ghostly podcast. Love it. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we debate. So I'm the believer and my partner is the skeptic. So we are for everybody.
Awesome. Definitely check it out, everybody. So going on to the next question. Now, can you give me an elevator pitch where you would share it in a professional setting?
Sure. Hi, my name is Rebecca Harrington, and I am a career specialist at College of DuPage. I started my career working in human resources and then spent some time teaching English, and I love combining those two things together to help people achieve their goals.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Great practice for you and everybody.
Thank you. Yes, we do, because we help people with their elevator pitches, it does help. You do learn your own, I guess, because you kind of have to give it as an example.
Definitely. Yeah. So we'll kind of dive a little bit more into your career path.
Sure.
And I wanted to focus on involvement. So based on what we heard a few episodes ago about getting involved, I was wondering if you could tell me how your high school and or college involvement influenced your career path.
Sure. So in high school, I was involved in band and theater and all of those fun arts things, but I was also involved in some kind of more businessy things as well. So I was in Model UN, which is always fun. You get to, go and pretend to learn about another country, pretend you're from that country and argue with people and, debate and have fun. But then I also worked with Junior Achievement, which is a business education nonprofit that works with students from, elementary school all the way through high school. I think they may have come and presented to us when we were in middle school, but I joined in high school. And basically, at the high school level, you work with a local business and create your own small business for the year. So you create a product, you make the product, you sell the product, and it was a really great learning experience for me. I actually from the beginning I became an officer for the company for human resources. So that basically was like, oh, I love this. Like, this is great. This is what I want to do. So, so that's kind of what I decided. And I actually ended up getting a scholarship through them. And then when I went to college, I actually still did volunteer work for junior achievement. And really, it just kind of launched me into choosing HR, basically. While I was in college, I will say, I was not as involved as I should have been. I wish I had been more involved in groups, because I think I would have maybe learned more. I would have gotten exposure to other people, other career paths, and I really just kind of picked something and was like, "That's it," and then went with it, without really doing maybe more research or other things that I could have done if I had been more involved, I think.
Yeah, it's just I'll talk about a little bit about this in my own interview too. But yeah, getting involved, I didn't get involved as much either as I would have liked to. So sometimes it's just hard. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, it is. And I don't know, I was so focused on my studies and having fun and all
Right.
of that it's easy to not, but it really, I know now it would have been very beneficial.
But I'm really glad though that you were able to get that experience with HR early on. And I think, we'll kind of dive into it a little bit more, but I think that's a big part of your story too. So
It is. And it
awesome.
was a lot of fun. I enjoyed, being involved with the organization. I
Hmm.
definitely believe in what they do, all of that.
Awesome. So the next question I have for you is, can you tell us a little bit more about your educational background?
Sure. So I had decided, right, that I was going to be in HR. So that's what I studied. I went to undergrad at DePaul University for management, or they call it a Bachelor of Science in Commerce, and that instead of business, and but then with a focus in management and specifically human resources. So that is what I studied, and I know we're going to walk through
Hmm.
more probably later, but I did eventually go back to school to grad school, and I actually got my master's in education as well as English literature. So I have
Wonderful.
two masters.
That's awesome. How was it going back for a second master's?
It was actually going back for the first master's was worse.
Was
Like
it?
it was so hard because I had worked in HR for, I don't know, maybe 10 years at that, maybe 9 years, something like that. And I had realized, okay, this isn't the path for me.
Hmm.
So I should look into something else. And I was doing that research. And once I realized, okay, for what I want to do, I need to go back to school. It probably took me at least a year, if not more, to apply to grad school and actually go back, because I just mentally was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to read again.
Oh God.
It's it's so, I just mentally wasn't there. But then once I did it, I enjoyed it and it was fun. And so then I actually didn't have to take that many more classes to get my second master's. It was really
Hmm.
just kind of an add-on. And so that wasn't as hard because I didn't have to go back for as long, and it hadn't been that long since I had done my first one. So
Right.
easier to convince myself.
Right. You kind of get into the groove of it, right?
Right, exactly.
I can definitely relate because doing my master's degree too, that reading was brutal. So I don't blame you.
Yes. Yes. I always call it the reading like monkey on your back, where it's like
Hmm.
every time this was in an undergrad too, it was like every time you're doing something in your back of your mind, it's always there saying, I should really be reading right now. I
Right.
should really be reading right now. It doesn't mean that I did. It just means that I knew that I should have been.
Right. So, from your educational background, let's now talk about your career path. So, can you kind of walk us through that career path? Was it traditional? Was it unexpected? What would you say?
So I would say that it started very traditional and then became unexpected.
Hmm.
So, as I mentioned, I really thought human resources was the path for me. So that's what I got my degree in. I graduated when the economy was good and they were handing out jobs. So
Hmm.
at that point, so it was pretty easy for me to find work, and I enjoyed it well enough. I actually started off in recruiting, but then I moved into training, which I really enjoyed. Obviously, that I ended up as I mentioned earlier, I ended up going into teaching, and I really do enjoy teaching. So being a trainer was nice. But when you're in training, it's a lot of travel. It's very repetitive. So after a few years, I was kind of, getting a little burnt out. So I went back into regular HR and worked as what they call an HRIS manager, which is working with the IT for HR. And I really didn't talk to people. It's a lot of on your computer, which after training, I was kind of okay with for a while. But anyways, I just realized I just wasn't happy,
Mhm.
or as happy as I thought I could be. And part of that is I wanted to have my career be something where I was giving back a bit more than I was working in corporate. So not that you're not giving, to people working in HR, but I wanted more. So I took a lot of assessments, which is something that we do with the people all the time in our department. So I, answered questions, and I did all sorts of, just things to find out my abilities and my interests and all of those things. And basically every single thing said I should be a teacher, which I had kind of always had that in my mind too. So
Mhm.
that's why I went back to school to be an English teacher. Unfortunately, when I graduated with my master's in teaching English, that was not a good time in the economy. And very few places were hiring. So it became a little bit more difficult to find a teaching job. So it took me a while to kind of settle in to teaching, longer than it had with HR. But I did find my place. I had to kind of cobble together some part-time work to make it happen. But it did, and I really enjoyed it. But just like with anything I've realized with me is I like change.
Mhm.
So after a while, I start to get restless.
Mhm.
And so I've realized, and I hope our listeners, some of them will relate to this, and maybe, start to feel okay with it, as I've realized I am not the kind of person who's going to do the same thing for the rest of my life,
Right.
like, or be in one career. I like change. So I started looking around for other opportunities. I had started working at community colleges with my teaching, and I loved it. So, that's partly why I went back to get my second master's, just so I could teach at the community college level. And I found this job in career services, and I was very excited because to me, it really does bring together the HR background,
Mhm.
which I had still kind of continued working as consulting and things like that in HR, even all through my teaching. But to bring the HR together with writing and communicating, which is something that I taught as an English teacher, was very exciting. And what I like about this job, as again, a person who easily gets bored, is that we do so many different things. Like no day is the same. Yes, we meet with people, but we're also presenting. So I still get the teaching component. And, we do special projects and special events all the time. So it's like and our department is so good at collaboration, where it's, if you have an idea for something you want to try, it's go for it. What can we do to help you with it? And I really love that. So far, I have been, my interest is still here, and I love it. I love helping people, and I love all the different things we get to do as part of our job.
I love that. Yeah, and everything connects, like you said, and you can use all of your skills in these different positions, and you're transferring those skills. Like we talked about transferable skills a while back. So it's all interesting to hear how it connects. So I love that.
Yeah, it was definitely a big jump. Yeah, and I had to work really hard on my resume
Mhm.
applying for the career services position to try and figure out how do I convey to these people, these people that are looking at my resume, that I have the skills for this thing that I've never done, but I feel like I do based on the work that I've done.
Yeah, and I kind of was also wondering, you answered it a little bit, but I was curious about how it felt to be a career changer. It sounds like you're pretty comfortable with it, but I just wanted
Hmm.
to kind of get your perspective, because I know sometimes when individuals are career changers, they can kind of be nervous to go into like a different field. So I was just wondering how you felt about that.
Thank you for asking that. I think that's really important to talk about. It was very nerve-wracking.
Mm.
Like I said, it took me years to go through the thought process of switching from
Mm.
working in this field that I had worked so hard to get into, that I was doing well in. I was going up. I mean, if I worked in that, I mean, I would, it's a it would have been a straight career path, very easy. And I know this is something that comes up with people we talk to too, is family.
Mhm.
My family was very confused. My family was very confused. Why are you changing? What's the problem? There's nothing wrong with the career you're doing. You're doing well. So it's hard to explain, like, yeah, but it's just not right. It's just, I'm not happy, and that is, especially for maybe more traditional career parents, they don't understand why that would be something that would matter.
Mhm.
It's like, why does it matter that you're not happy? And I had to say, like, I understand that I'm probably not going to be 100% happy in anything that I choose, but I think I could be more than I am. I could not be crying at work. That would
Right.
be great. So, and I, that's obviously, it was a very big pivot. Not every
Mhm.
career change has to be that big of a pivot. Again, for me, the teaching to career services was much easier,
Mhm.
not as big of a pivot. I'm at the same place and working with a lot of the same people, and I'm still working with students. It's just in a different way. So that I think it kind of says something. If you do a career change, that's more of a pivot.
Mhm.
That's it. That's an easier change. If it's a truly, like, I was doing one thing and now I'm doing something completely different, it's a much bigger thing. And you kind of need to know that it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to
Mhm.
be scary. And, the only thing you can do is do as much research as possible, and then jump in.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective because I think that's going to help a lot of our listeners for sure. So, can you tell us about the mentors in your life and how they helped you decide on a career path?
Thank you for asking that. I want to definitely acknowledge, one, of course, was my junior achievement business folks. They were so great and so helpful to me. But we were just talking about that difficulty of switching and making that big career switch. And there was a man named Gibby Monikowski who was actually my friend's father, and so I had known him my whole life. But once he learned that I had gotten my master's in teaching English, immediately was like, "Oh, forget high school. You need to come and teach at the community college level.
Mhm.
It's so much better. I know you're going to love it. I know you, like, this is going to be great." And basically, we talk about the hidden job market. This is why you want mentors in your life and why you want to network and just tell everybody, because he was basically the chair of his department and was like, "Yep, we're hiring you." And, like, I went to the interview, and the dean was asking me questions, and he was like, "Yeah, so when you start, this is what you're going to do." Like, he was very like, it's a done deal. And even after I started, he gave me so much material and, really helped me learn, the best ways to engage students, and, worked with me and liked my ideas too. And that was just so helpful. And I will be forever grateful for him. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and I still miss him. But he was a mentor, not just to me, but to a lot of people. And I, there's been a few others, but I think he's the one I want to mention, just because it was that real shaky time in my life, and he was able to give me a place to go. And so, when it comes time and you're looking for a new opportunity or looking for your first opportunity, I always say to people, tell everybody that you can, because you never know who's going to be that person to jump out and help you.
That's a wonderful story. And mentors, they just change your life. Seriously, like
Yeah.
without them, sometimes I think I'm like, where would I be without my mentors? Like they showed me so much guidance. So I love that you shared that story. Okay, our final question is very serious question here. Now,
Okay.
now that we're going into winter hibernation and the holidays, what TV series are you ready to binge watch?
So there's always, I always like watching the Bake Off series, the Great
Ooh.
British Bake Off or whatever during the break. But what I'm very excited about this year is Willow, which is based on a movie from the 80s that I loved when I was a kid. And I'm really excited because they brought back a lot of the same actors. And I've already seen a couple episodes and it's great. And I can't wait to keep watching it.
Ooh, I have to check it out. I don't think I've ever heard of it, but and I haven't seen the movie either, but I will definitely put that on my watch list.
I mean, it's got Val Kilmer in it. So I'm just, young Val Kilmer can't go wrong.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. It has been just a treat to talk to you and just kind of hear about your career path and what's influenced you. So thank you so much for being here today and interviewing with me.
Thank you for having me.
So thanks to all of our listeners for being here today. We won't be answering a listener question this episode, but I did want to remind everyone that if you do have questions that you want answered in future episodes, you can submit those to careerpodcast@cod.edu. Be sure to join us for our next episode when Rebecca interviews Pierre.